So in case I don't talk about it enough, I'm kind of obsessed with Jane Austen. I adore her. She is my literary best friend. If you know me, then you know. If you're new to my channel, hey, I'm obsessed with Jane Austen. And I have spent the past couple months reading a lot of books that I think Jane Austen lovers would like. I know there are a lot of retellings of Pride and Prejudice. This wasn't so much about retellings as it is books that make me feel warm and cozy and the vibe that Jane Austen gives me. I have 7 books. I kind of just want to geek out over them. Sometimes I write notes. I'll have stuff written down, specific phrases that I want to say if I'm reviewing or trying to recommend a book to you guys. But I decided with this video, I'm just gonna talk like we're best friends. And I'm not gonna try to make sure I'm all eloquent because I don't care. I just want to geek out about Jane Austen. So let's get started. So first up, we have Miss Austen by Jill Hornby. This novel is a fictional retelling of Jane Austen's sister, Cassandra Austen. It has 2 timelines. One is in the 1840s, long after Jane has died, and Cassandra Austen is visiting her family. There are some letters there between her and Jane that she doesn't want them to get their hands on, and so she's trying to get those letters, but while she's there getting those letters, she's reminiscing and remembering her time when her sister Jane was alive, and that's my favorite part of this book. When she is reminiscent of her youth with Jane and their relationship, their sisterhood was so beautiful and so strong. They were like their own little family. I was a bit worried because this is a fictional retelling of a real person, and based on what I do know about the Austens, I think this was really respectfully done, very accurately done. It was just so good. Not only was this a wonderful exploration of the Austen family in general, but I also found it to be a fantastic novel about grief, but it wasn't super heavy and sad the whole time. It was very beautiful and touching and moving, and it was just so good. I would just highly recommend it if you love Jane Austen. There's no way you won't love this book. I'm gonna throw that out there. It's fantastic. Okay, be prepared because this next book is my favorite book on the entire list, and I'm probably gonna geek out so hard. I love this book so much. It's The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. So if you know Pride and Prejudice, you know Mary, right? She's kind of like the ugly duckling of the Bennet sisters, but this is her story where she finds love and happiness, and it is so well done. What I love about this book is that it kind of takes place right before Pride and Prejudice, and it goes throughout Pride and Prejudice, and it continues to go on after Pride and Prejudice. It was kind of like getting to reread Pride and Prejudice from a different perspective. I loved getting to know Mary. See that she goes from someone who's struggling, she just wants to be accepted in the family. She wants to be beautiful like Jane and Elizabeth, but she's not. She wants to be talented. That's why she works so hard at the piano. You just see the way that she grows and how she comes into who she is. I literally stayed up at night into the wee hours of the night reading this because I could not put it down. I felt like I became good friends with Mary. A lot of fan fiction and retellings sometimes are just not that good, but this is as good as it gets. This is the cream of the crop right here. Definitely check this out if you're interested in Pride and Prejudice. How can you not like Pride and Prejudice? Anybody should check this out. So next up, we have another one of my most recent favorites. It is The Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. So if you like the Guernsey potato peel and literary what is the title of that book? The Guernsey potato peel and literary, can't remember, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? If you like that book or that film, I would highly recommend this for you. If you like kind of calm, quiet novels that are still very moving and touching and just a joy to read, a joy to live in the world, I would highly recommend this one. It's about a group of people who all love Jane Austen for different reasons, and they come together post World War II to save this cottage and this house that belonged to the Austen family. So they create the Jane Austen Society. All of the characters just resonated with me. They were all so different and so beautiful. If you like character-driven books, I would also highly recommend this one because it's not super plot heavy. They are trying to save the cottage and save the estate and work towards a goal, but it's not like there's this crazy plot going on. It was so charming, and it had so many references, so many, to Pride and Prejudice and Emma and Persuasion. If you haven't read all the books, I would say that there are some spoilers in here. They kind of debate which heroine was better or what Darcy was trying to say in this one scene of Pride and Prejudice. The characters have these discussions. It's kind of like sitting in on a book club, but really you're just sitting in on these two people sitting outside of a cottage drinking tea, talking about their thoughts over Emma or Fanny Price, and you get to listen to this conversation. There were literally a couple pages that I highlighted because I loved their thoughts on Fanny Price. It was just such a delightful read. This is probably the most cozy, the most warm, the most peaceful and just like happy book on this list. Okay, and next up we have a YA novel. I've talked about this one before, but I have to talk about it again because it is one of my favorite reads of the year. I read this back in February, and it is Dangerous Alliance by Jennieke Cohen. I know I'm not saying that right. But yeah, so this is Dangerous Alliance, an ostentatious romance. This follows our main character, Lady Victoria Austen, and she kind of has the ideal life. She lives in this massive estate in the countryside. She has everything she could want until she kind of realizes that her sister's husband is being a bit secretive and hiding something. And at the same time, she's kind of dealing with some romance in her own life, and she always turns to Jane Austen for advice on how to pursue her romantic life. So this is actually kind of part mystery thriller mixed with romance. It has a mystery aspect of the story. It also has romance, which is one thing that I really loved about this. It was literally like two genres put together, and it did it so well. There are these mysterious incidents that are starting to happen. There's this guy who just comes running at her on a horse out of the woods, out of nowhere, and tries to attack her, and she's like, what the heck? And then later on, there are some incidents that happen with a carriage and robbers and like all sorts of crazy stuff. But then there's also these few leading men that are trying to get her heart, and the way she turns to Jane Austen is just beautiful and wonderful. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely enjoyed it. And it actually kind of reads like a classic, kind of has that language. It just reads very beautifully. If you like mystery and you also like Jane Austen and you like fast-paced plots and lovable characters, I would definitely recommend this one. Okay, so this next one is probably the least like Jane Austen, but I'm still gonna put it on the list anyway. And that is Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore. And I'll put it a bit closer so you can see that cover. I would recommend this to fans of romance novels because this is purely a romance novel that also involves like royalty, feminism, women's rights, and yeah, lots of romance. It's set in England in 1879, and our main character is Annabel Archer, and she is one of the first female students at Oxford University. But she is at Oxford because she got a scholarship, and part of this scholarship requires her to influence men to join their cause, to support the women's rights cause that is happening at Oxford. She doesn't really realize it, but on one of her first days, goes up to the Duke of Montgomery, I think that's who it is. And she starts talking to him, and then she goes back to the girls later and they're like, oh my gosh, you were talking to the Duke. Like, I would never go up to him. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't know. And then from there, you can imagine they come to interact some more and budding romance happens. But there's also a lot of references to women's rights, which is why I absolutely loved it. I'm not a huge romance reader, so parts of this I was like, okay, this is a bit much for me, but I still really enjoyed it. Obviously, this took place after Jane Austen and after all of her novels, but it still kind of gave me that vibe that I wanted of like English countryside and dukes and girls who kind of don't have the choice whether they marry for love or for wealth. They just need to get married in order to have themselves supported. But this is starting to get to the age where women are having jobs and women don't need to get married. But I don't know. It still kind of gave me that vibe that I like in Jane Austen books. Last up, we have 2 books that are by the same author, so I'm just gonna group them together. And they are Georgia Hare books. They're beautiful covers. Sorry, it's really bright because I'm sitting by a window. But these are the 2 that I have. And the reason that I recommend Georgette Hare isn't because she writes just like Jane Austen, because they do take place kind of back in the same time period. But what I love about her is her wit. She is so funny, and that's what I think she has in common with Jane Austen. Obviously, they're different. They're not the same. Jane Austen is superior in my opinion. But one of the things that I did discover while reading her was that she was just hilarious. She always has the best heroines. And one thing that I also adore about her is that she put in a meticulous amount of research when writing these books. You can tell, even in the back of the book, there's a glossary of Regency slang, so that all of the words that she uses, you can go and you can figure out what they actually mean. So I would say if you finish reading some of Jane Austen's books and you're kind of missing them, I would highly recommend picking up one of the Georgia Hare books. That's exactly what I did. I finished all of Jane's novels and I was like, what do I do with my life? And then some people recommended Georgette Hare, and I picked her up, and it was so good. It was just such a good time. Now I have all of her books to read, so I'm really happy about that. And I'm also working on the Brontes, but yeah. I do know that some of the most famous Georgette Hare books are The Grand Sophie, which is here, Frederica, Arabella, Devil's Cup. There are some others. I know those are some of the most famous and most highly rated. I personally loved Arabella the most so far, so I would recommend starting with Arabella or The Grand Sophie. They're just so good. They both have really great female leads. You'll find yourself laughing out loud. I can almost guarantee it. Also, if you just want something that's fun and happy and will make you feel good and kind of just an escape, I would also really highly recommend these as well. They're just great books to escape into and also kind of give you the vibe because it is set back in the Regency period, so same as Jane Austen, and there are lots of them, so you won't run out anytime soon. And those are all the books. I know there are a ton of retellings, but I didn't want this to be about retellings. I just wanted it to be about books that make me feel the Jane Austen cozy vibes. If you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you in my next video. Peace out.